See you in a bit. When we were in that Korean place last night, it was someone's birthday, so it's like singing happy birthday. It's like, here we go, all the like stuff came out. It was like, happy birthday to you. Like a big gong in the hand.
merch code is my father's name.
here he is. What the heck is that?
There's like candy corn.
Oh, yes. Oh, is this from the thing from yesterday?
What?
Thank you. I'll have a...
I don't know what candy corn is, but it's
Yeah, go on. I might have one. I'll have two.
A few moments later.
Hang on a second. Good spot, Chris. Yeah, there's a dial on the quad cortex. It wasn't all the way up. It's normally all the way up. Let's go again.
Yep.
Is this more flat than you normally have it?
So I can like...
A little strider. This is strider.
I'd love to do hanging longing instrumentally.
It's for you.
I just bought this from you for $15.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
That's the one I want. Got the boys then.
Aye.
Oh, she sat down for a bit.
Oh, good.
Is she nice?
I'm glad she's moved since.
It's just like, they don't seem like super close friends.
Should she be on the wagon? Yeah, nobody's on the wagon. Oh, I'll invite her.
Have you got that white noise?
I know
Oh yeah. Say again.
Can you lift this up?
Oh yeah. Thanks, mate. Ay, ay, ay. Thanks, bro. Thanks, man.
Yes, thank
Appreciate
you.
you. No, of course, bro. Of course. Anytime and every time. Ay, ay, ay.
Filming your vlog.
I'll put down.
Put that one there. Thank you.
Oh yeah. I was like, silver?
Yeah.
But no, that's. I assume that's the wolf.
That's the wolf.
It was good. Weird though, because I felt I got a bit too comfortable, and then I fucked up Afterlife, and it's like, you know, it's bad when you fuck up the one song that you play like every show. Like, yeah, not the best, but kind of shag. Huh? Not that bad, to be fair. Lucas carried it like so well. He like. It was the second verse. I like came in early with the. I came in like, I think I came in like 2 bars early.
At the same time.
Stupidly, but he like was on. He was on his cue, so like halfway in the middle of the verse, I was like, oh, he's right, but we were wrong. And Scott and Ben always follow me if I fuck up, which is like good for them. Like it's fucking banging that they like cover my ass, but then it's bad because like when Lucas is then like on, it's like, oh, we're all a little bit off, but then managed to second chorus, fine. But yeah, it was good though. Like I feel the recovery was fine. When he recovered it, I was like blessed. Blessed for Lucas.
I love how often in our tracks we do have a woman go 1, 2, 3,
Same.
4. It really helps put everything into perspective when we get a little bit out.
Lost, yeah. Well, bro, I think like it was definitely, well, obviously it was me, but like I think I just started a bit
from
2
my
bars too
perspective,
early.
The second verse, you did the second verse fill like a bar ahead.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Oops.
but Lucas obviously followed you, which is probably the best.
And then he went back to like what would have been normal.
That's because that's what happened. I jumped in then as well, thinking, fuck it, we may as well be all off together. Just, you get away with that.
But then I could like hear him like be like what should have been.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, he's there. So I sort of knew to.
This crazy thing was because I jumped in with you and Lucas doing it wrong, and then when Lucas corrected, I looked at Scott and I was like, I just had to stop and come back in again.
Yeah.
I was just like, we were cooking and then we stopped and then we started again.
Yeah.
But now we are right. And then
We were right in the second
especially when the
chorus.
woman counted in, I was like, oh, we are 100% right.
Yeah.
It's like happy days, you know what I mean?
Yeah, other than that fucking silly little mess up, I loved playing Honeymoon, bro. Like, I love it.
Me and Scott were saying, I think we can make some tweaks to make it feel a little bit nicer, but yeah. It took, I think it took some getting used to for me and Scott.
Yeah. Oh, the post. Oh, you haven't seen the poster?
No.
Mate, it's banging, isn't it?
Then
Look at you. You look handsome. You look like fucking Yu-Gi-Oh.
I look like Ethan. Oh, this is sick.
Yeah, man. It's banging, isn't it?
So did someone bought this today?
Yeah, they bought one to sign and then one for us to keep. Yeah, I'm gonna go pack away. I'll see you in a bit. Oy, oy, oy. I'm gonna fucking use this today.
Is this your setup that's just showing here?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Shout your guys'
Say again.
album is probably like top 3 album of the year
Oh
for
man,
me.
thanks so much, man. Appreciate
Dylan,
you.
nice to meet
Thanks,
you.
man. Good to see you, man. Appreciate you, Dylan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Boring bit now. Go pack away. Thank you. Thanks, brother. Oh, banging, thanks, bro. Good, man. Good. Real good. Same. Have you seen my pelly? Do you know where my pelly is? Trade, yeah?
Are you all good in there?
Thanks so much for today, mate. Appreciate everything today. Thank you so much. You too, thanks.